Davison of 1000-Watt Consulting. Big round of applause. Marc, come on out, buddy.
Thank you, Tom. Boy, the me you paint to this crowd. I said the me you paint to this crowd. I got to check my own brand. Okay, I have some things for you guys. I'm going to talk a little bit about, today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I built my company, 1000 Watt. And I want to start off with just naming some brands that we probably all know and love: Nike, Apple, Starwood, the NFL, Prada, Porsche. These are brands that are really well known around the world, and these guys have done a magnificent job in sort of creating a sense of itself that people buy into and love, almost more than the product itself. And so what they've done is they've truly created a brand. And what I fundamentally believe is that what real estate people have been taught to do is really not build brand. How many of you have taken some branding classes or have hired a branding person to build your brand? I'm going to challenge them and you the way I did Tom, in that they really didn't build your brand. They just created collateral to help you sell yourselves. And there's a there's a very big difference between what they did and what building brand is. In 2007, I came up with an idea. I just sold a technology company that I had for 6 years, and through building software for brokers, I discovered a lot of things that didn't make sense to me in terms of how they were positioning themselves online. And I learned this by going to their office and seeing what they were doing as a brick and mortar entity, and then looking at what they had online, and there was a big disconnect between the two. The entity that I saw on the internet, in many cases, just looked sloppy, disorganized, not beautiful in comparison to what they had in the real world. And I decided to build a company that would change that would help brokers and media companies and startup companies and .coms make themselves look better. So I passed this idea along to a bunch of people that I care about and respect, and they all told me that I was insane for doing this. This was 2007, right? So the market was taking a crap all over us. And the last thing that I was advised to do was to launch a company delivering a service and a product that no one understands, that most people don't need. And the truth is, I was really unknown and would start an unknown company, so how would I ever make any money? But the reality was I really didn't care about making money. And this is sort of the first step in building a brand. Money is the end result of anything you do. But if that's not the reason why you're doing it, if that's the only reason why you're doing it, it's going to be really hard to create a seamless brand throughout. I had made money. I just sold the company. But what I was really passionate about was I believe in real estate. My mother was a broker. The money that she made, the money my dad made, put me through college. And I love the industry. I've been buying houses. I've been an investor almost my whole life, my whole adult life. And I love the industry. But I'm also well aware of the impression and the stereotypes that real estate get out in the public. And I believe that if I can help make real estate look better, make it shine, it would be great for the industry and great for the consumer. So that was sort of my brand mission. So I decided, instead of building a company, I would do something greater. And I was going to prove them all wrong by building a brand. And that's what gave birth to 1000 Watt. And so what I'm going to share with you today are the 10 things that I did to build my brand. And I think I should really start, almost venture off from what I had planned to tell you, is that if you look at my logo and just the icon that I have, the first step in naming this thing was not, I did not want to focus on me and what I'm about. I wanted to focus on what I was going to do and what was going to happen as a result of what I was going to do. So if I'm going to come into a company and help them shine, if I'm going to help dig deep and pull out the things that make them great, but maybe had collected dust or sediment over time, I need to come up with a name that would sort of reflect that intention. And the idea of 1000 Watt, bright, brilliant light, came to mind. And as soon as I thought of that, I thought of Turn On as the slogan, which would really depict me, the electrician of real estate that would come into companies and help turn on their brilliance. So let's go to the first slide if we can. And we're going to go 10 steps. These are the 10 things that I did that I'd like to share with you in hopes that you would do the same thing. Has anybody here read the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why? Well, I know you love to read, and I would mark this down as the first thing you ought to do is look up this book and buy it, because this is sort of the fundamental sort of branding 101. Why do I exist? My focus, I really didn't even know, to be honest, what I would be doing, and I wasn't really sure how I was going to do it. But what I was totally sure of was why I was going to create this company and why I was going to deliver the kind of services I was going to deliver. So the things I tried to figure out is, one, what kind of problem was I going to solve in my marketplace? Number two is, what purpose did I have? Why did I exist? And what could I tie my value proposition to that would make me different than everybody else? And I think this is really important, because one of the things I've observed about real estate is that there's, 1,000 real estate people here? I'm willing to bet you that many of you have the same exact websites from the same exact vendors. Would that be fair to say? Well, there's the first sort of misstep or nick to branding, is that if you're using the same exact digital expression as somebody else, or maybe the color is different, or your image is different, but all the content is the same templated content, if your IDX search is the same exact search experience, which, by the way, the homes you're showing on your site are the same homes you're all showing on your site, and it's all the same inventory you're showing on your site. What is your difference? And maybe your difference is buried in an About Us page that describes the real you, but that's too late in the process. People are going to look at your digital website, your digital place online, and form a 5-second impression. And if all the real stuff about you is hidden way in the back, they're never going to even see it. So this was the first step, is to figure out why I existed. And I existed to deliver services that would help real estate companies communicate their value better to the world. The question for you is, why are you in real estate? Not because we all know we're here to make some money, but why are you here to make money? You could do anything to make money. Why did you choose to do this? And it's through thinking through why you chose to do this and what ultimately happens as a result of what you've done. The pleasure of buying a home, the pleasure of selling a home, the pleasure of when you list a home and sell it, you have helped a person move on to their journey of life. How many of you have ever taken responsibility or taken hold of that idea and presented that as what you do for a living? You help people move on to their journey. This is sort of the first step in figuring out brand, and it's the first step I had to do, is to really understand why I was in business. Next slide, please. So the next slide, it says, say things others won't. I have found in real estate that, especially being here in California, I'm from New York City, which is why I'm somewhat confrontational. And I know that being here, there's sort of more laid-back attitude. But saying things others won't means sometimes you just have to tell the truth. And one of the first things that I did in starting 1000 Watt was I started writing blogs. And one of the earliest blogs I wrote took real estate to challenge. What I was bothered by was how real estate brokerage messaging would tell me, the consumer, that real estate is the most important purchase I'll ever make in my life. So when I go to their website and become a lead, who does the broker give the lead to? The weakest agent in the company. And I felt like that was a real misstep. It was sort of talking out of both sides of your mouth. So I went and challenged real estate with a blog post about how I felt that brokers are basically bullshitting America. So guess what? I didn't win a lot of friends. I got a lot of hate mail, but I got a couple of love mails. There was a couple of people who read that and it resonated with them, and it made them stop doing that and start doing something else. And those were my first customers. They didn't hire me based on what I did, because I didn't even know what I was going to do yet. I knew I had some skills, but I wasn't exactly sure what they were, and I didn't even know what my pricing was going to be. But I just knew I was going to fix problems. So sometimes it means telling a seller straight to their face, I'm not taking your house if you're going to price it way out of range. Or sometimes it's telling a buyer that they're being absolutely ridiculous and they're driving you crazy and they need to stop, or else they can go find another agent. Because you need to do that to protect your own brand and not let somebody else drag you down. Say things others won't say. It's also part of being different. Let's go to number 3. Avoid self-denial. If you're going to be in business for a long time, you need to play the long game. And to be able to play the long game, you need to survive. To survive, you have to know what you're willing to do, and you have to know what you're not willing to do. Anybody here ever have a crappy client that drove you crazy? How many of you got rid of that crappy client? Good, applaud yourself, because that's all about avoiding self-denial. Stop telling yourself that you'll be able to get through something that you know instinctively you won't be. I learned early on, and I did make some mistakes, and I'll talk about that, but I said yes to work that I never should have said yes to. There's a certain profile person that I know I shouldn't be working with. There's a certain profile company I shouldn't be working with. As an example, because we do branding work, we need a company to have a director of marketing, somebody who actually knows what marketing is. Marketing is not just writing ads. Marketing is the research you do to collect incoming data so you can create a good, positive, outgoing message. If a company doesn't have a marketing person, then they don't really know who their demographics are. They don't know their audience. They just say, well, we sell to everybody. But they're not really clear who everybody really is. So because they're not clear who everybody is, and they're not really clear who they are, they simply reject every idea I give them. Even though I've done my job in trying to understand them, without a director of marketing to help me translate my work to the company, which oftentimes has many stakeholders, it's a problem. And so I had to learn those lessons. So avoid self-denial is trust your gut. If your gut is telling you not to do something, just don't do it. Like, don't experiment with your brand. Within branding, and brands can do fun stuff, like I think about Virgin Airlines and all the fun stuff they do, but it's directly out of their personality. I think they did go with their gut. In fact, even something as crazy as like flying people into outer space seems like not only right for Virgin, but the truth is, like, I'm afraid to get on a United flight from Portland to Santa Ana, but I think if I had the money, I'd buy a ticket to the moon on Virgin. So what you're doing, the instincts you have, they need to be true to your core. And if you don't have a good feeling about something, avoid self-denial. Don't tell yourself that it'll be okay. It probably isn't going to be okay. And if it ends up being okay, I worry about what you had to go through to make it okay. Next slide. Nail every touch point. You guys know what brand touch points are? Okay. Brand touch points is that thing you have with your name on it. That's a brand touch point. The brand touch points are your clothing. It's the cars you drive. It's the phone you use. It's the business cards you have. It's the letterhead you have. It's your yard signs. It's every single thing that has your brand name on it that the public is going to touch and evaluate you by. I have a friend in Scottsdale. He owns Russ Lyon, Sotheby's. And he's not a client, he's just a good old-time friend. And I go down there once a quarter for a weekend to spend with him and his family. And every Saturday morning we do the same thing. We drive around Scottsdale, and he's looking at all his yard signs for sign writers that are not consistent with his brand standard posted up by agents in his company. And he will systematically pull them off the sign, put them in his car, and bring them back to the office and put them on their desk, because they are not truly representative of the Sotheby's brand. So, touch points. Like, I made business cards, and I spent triple the amount of money to create a double-sided card with cool color on a cardstock that is almost like cardboard. When you touch this card, it feels rich. At least that's what I was hoping that would happen. I have seen so many real estate business cards that are flimsy, that are cheap, that are done online for next to nothing, and that is a brand touch point. Because when you give that to somebody and they touch it, what they feel, this is all about senses, what you feel, what you hear, what you smell. Brands emit these things. Walk into a W hotel in the lobby, and what you see and what you hear speaks to the W brand. What people touch of yours are what people are going to feel about your brand. So for me, it was really critical that our website, that our business cards, and we're a virtual company. We don't have much stuff to put out. But every little thing we put out, every one of my employees always has a brand new Mac, because that's just the symbol of coolness in the world. So, and I've always looked at real estate folks, and especially the yard signs. I feel like yard signs all look almost exactly alike. The posts are the same, the sign is the same. Redfin not too long ago put out a very different looking yard sign. I don't know if you see them around here, but they had a large call to action on it that just said, "Buy me." And I thought that was cool and unique and different, and it spoke to the Redfin brand. So I nailed every touch point. What I want you guys to do, one thing tonight, is call your phone, call your office this evening and listen to your voicemail. That's another touch point. It's something somebody's going to hear when they call you and they don't get you. Does that voicemail sound like you? Does it feel like you? Does it say, "Sorry, I'm away from my phone, I'm away from my desk, or on another call"? Is that the best you could do? Is leave somebody with an ambiguous sense of what you're doing? Or could you do better? That's a touch point. Next slide. Know what I'm up against. The word "against" should be up there. Know what I'm up against. When I decided to get into the consulting business or the creative agency business, I looked around at all the other consultants, and I saw a lot of gray hairs, and I saw a lot of sleazy people. And what I mean by people, sleazy people, is there's a lot of consultants in this industry that will refer you to one of their friends, and if you go buy one of their friends' products, they get 20, 30%. And that's sleazebag business, and I don't like it. And I was freaked out about the idea of calling ourselves 1000-Watt Consulting and to be branded under that sort of ick of consultants. So I make it a point, whenever I refer anybody to anybody, I make it really clear that they're either a client or they're not a client, or that I'm just recommending you because they're the best at what they do and I don't get a dime. So sometimes, knowing what you're up against, knowing who your competition is, understanding what they are and what they do, and try to be different is a critical thing to brand building. Next slide. Choose partners wisely. You know this saying, like you are who your friends are, you are guilty by association. Brand is all about choosing your partners. When you go buy a Ferrari, there isn't like a Ford Delco radio in it, right? There's a reason why some brands will not sit on a shelf in certain stores next to other brands, because they don't want to be guilty by association. I have turned down so many opportunities. There are companies in real estate that have approached me many times who could sell my services for me. And what they want is 20 to 30% to recommend me to their clients. And I would always say to them, why don't you just recommend me anyway? Like, I'm not going to give you 30% of my hard-earned dollars, but if you're being paid by the broker, this goes back also to the last slide I showed you, why don't you just make that recommendation? And because they wouldn't, and even if they agreed to, I just didn't like that business to begin with, so I would not ever let anybody sell my services. I'm very careful who my clients are. I'm very careful what I do when I go out at night at a conference. You won't hardly ever find me at a bar drinking. It's not my style, it's not my scene. These are the things I'm very disciplined. And I like to party and I like to have fun, but I'm very careful how I do it in the public eye. I don't like having my picture taken with women that then get posted on Facebook, because I don't want to come home and have to explain that to my wife and kids. So like, you're guilty by association, but you're also like positive by your association. Pick good clients, pick good brokerages, pick good people to associate with. It's really good for your brand. Next, learn more from your mistakes. It just seems simple enough, but I can't tell you, like, I've made the same mistakes a couple of times over, and it is a true sign of insanity, because things don't change. I've hired certain people because I'm just sympathetic to their situation, but those situations are typically the same, and I always end up with the same problem. I'm sympathetic to certain brokers that just don't seem to have any money, but I want to help them, and I end up, they call me night and day, and they call me over the weekend, and it's too much. You have to learn from your mistakes. I know you've done the same things, but the quickest thing to killing your brand is making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Like, again, this goes back to trust your instincts, but like, acknowledge a mistake. It's okay to make it, but swear you're never going to make it again. I'm racing through because I have a minute left. Next slide. Get good before you get big. It's so easy in the consulting business to just say yes to everybody, and I know it's that simple in real estate as well, But I've seen this, you know, an SEO expert that all of a sudden is now doing brand consulting, or a social media coach is now doing internet design and UI design. Like, it's so easy to just go, yeah, I'll be that person too. I'll go to Google, read a couple of articles about something, and now I'm going to be an expert. But I've seen agents do the same thing, take listings in marketplaces that they don't really know anything about, work with buyers who they don't really understand what their true needs are, or taking on software and technology that you're not really schooled yet. Don't rush. You have a whole lifetime to build your business and build your brand. Slow down and just get good before you start getting big. Finally, there's two left, give gifts. As a brand, my thing was give gifts. So we have created all kinds of content that we freely give away to real estate people. One of the things we have is the 1,000-watt index. That is a list of almost every cool piece of technology in the United States, Europe, and Asia. And it costs us $20,000 to put this site together, but it's free. It's online. You don't have to subscribe or do anything. That's just one of many things that we voluntarily give, because if we're in business to help real estate shine, we need to offer things to help real estate shine, whether they pay us or not. Like, that brand mission doesn't begin and end at the paycheck. And finally, the last thing I want to share with you is Sweat Lodge. We don't make any decision at work until every one of us have a say. And oftentimes, we sweat out a discussion. And it's not easy. I don't like it half the time. It's uncomfortable to play devil's advocate. But when we ask ourselves the question, is what we're about to do consistent with what we stand for? If we can't find a yes across the board, or start finding a bunch of no's, we don't do it. And I think this is the most critical thing to brand building, is any decision you make, you need to hold it up against your core values. Hold it up against what you truly stand for, and ask yourself the question, if I'm promising my customers to go the extra mile, then spending an extra $100 for a piece of software is a no-brainer. You have to do it. It's why BMW continues to put out great cars year after year after year that are better than the year before, because they have to live up to their promise of being the ultimate driving machine. So whatever promises you are making to people, you need to live up to them by fulfilling that in which you do, so you sometimes need to sweat lodge yourself. I'm going to leave you with this. That's my email address. If you guys can pass that one. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'm not for hire here. I didn't come here to get hired. I just came here to share this with you. I'm a friend of Tom's. And the last slide I want to show you is my gift to you. We publish a newsletter every single week on one cool idea, one cool app, one cool person, how to use it, how to apply what this is that will help you in your career. It's totally free. We don't data mine you. We're not here to sell you anything. So if you go to 1000watt.net/spotlight and just subscribe every week, you'll get a cool little newsletter that looks just like that I think will just turn you guys on a little bit. Good luck. Brand yourselves. Cheers. And I'll see you later.
Dude, you're the mad scientist. I love it. Okay.